Hi Olayinka, thank you for your participation in the Celebrating Small Steps in Achieve. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name's Olayinka Lewis, but you can call me Yinka. I'm a law lecturer with a UK university. I'm also a solicitor with specialism in immigration law. I've practiced immigration law for over a decade. That's UK immigration law. I hold a bachelor's degree in law. I've also got a master's degree in law, and I hold a PhD in law as well. I've worked in a number of places covering public and the private sector. I'm also interested in research. I research in a range of areas, particularly UK immigration and asylum law, legal pluralism, customary law, and oil and gas law. Thank you.
Thank you, Yinka. That's very interesting, actually, your background, very much more. I know you work a lot around immigration, already supporting a lot of people, and before you've also supported a lot of students, even now. UK visa application and renewal can actually be quite a daunting process. What do you think we can do better to support international students in the process?
I think, yes, I do agree that UK visa application and renewal process is very daunting. And one of the reasons for the difficulty is the hostile environment policy. This is a policy that was introduced years and years ago, but made obvious during the Home Secretaryship of the Right Honourable Theresa May, and is still reflected in a range of various legislation to date. And one very good example I can offer in relation to how the wholesale environment policy manifests itself is the Windrush Scandal, which happened a few years ago, where a lot of individuals from the Caribbean who came here either with their parents or and had lived here for years and did not have evidence of proof of right to work physically, either because they weren't given one or because it was unavailable due to the Home Office administrative activities. There was an issue of them being returned back to the Caribbean. I mean, a lot of them have known here as they've made here their home country, and it just demonstrated how hostile the system was towards such individuals. Other reasons range from the regular changes to the immigration rules. The rules change so regularly that it's difficult for you to keep track of what the existing rule is unless you're an expert. Even those who are experts as well, you have to constantly update yourselves of the rules. I often make a joke with friends, with colleagues particularly, that UK immigration law changes like the stock market. It changes constantly. Sometimes it changes like clockwork. And that's another reason why it can be a very daunting process if you're looking to apply for a visa or even renew the visa. There's also the reason of uncertainty of the system. You don't know what's going to happen because it's majorly driven by party politics, in my opinion, anyway. And government policy is influenced by government immigration policy is influenced by party politics. And a very good example of that is the manifesto pledge of the previous, well, not the immediate past Prime Minister, but the Prime Minister David Cameron, who made the campaign pledge to reduce the numbers of migrants coming into the country from hundreds of thousands to the tens of thousands. And that policy was flawed, mainly because of the fact that we were part of the European Union at the time, and you could not restrict the numbers of people coming into the UK from within the EU because of the free freedom of movement or free movement policy in place at the time. There's also the fee policy as well. When you look at the amount it takes to process a visa application fee, it's not commensurate to the actual amount that is charged for a UK visa application. I will talk about that in a few questions' time. And I think one of the reasons why the process is difficult is the fact there's a lack of support. So there's inadequate support for migrants. There's no system in place where immigration is given center stage in relation to addressing issues that result from it, and not a lot of support, in my opinion, is offered to migrants. Of course, you do have within universities, you have departments that are dedicated to offer immigration advice to students. Some go to the extent of even assisting with financial assistance in relation to transportation expenses, for instance. But regarding the actual visa application fees and all those other requirements that need huge finance to cater to them, there's not enough of support for that. Now, what can we do better? I think one key thing is to change the mindset away from the hostile environment policy, and where the government begins to appreciate that immigration is good for the country, where the government begins to appreciate that certain workers are required within certain sectors, that may hopefully, that in my opinion could change the mindset. Another way we can do better is to reduce the frequency of change, reduce the amount of fees charged. And I think that's been demonstrated recently with the EU settlement scheme, which initially started, when it started, applicants were to be charged about 50 or 60 pounds for it. But there was a huge outcry and that fee was waived. And if the system is streamlined in such a way that you don't have to submit huge paperwork, which may have been submitted to the Home Office through a previous application, if you don't have to provide biometric information every time you make an extension application, I think that would go a long way to helping make things better. And one final thing one final point I'll make on this issue, on how we can do better, is to address the length of the visa processing time. At the moment, for some visa applications, the Home Office tells you it can take up to 8 weeks from the date of making your visa application to receiving an outcome. It doesn't matter if that outcome is positive or negative. That's one. There's also you've also got the priority service, where for an extra amount of money, for some visa applications, you're able to get the decision within 5 working days of you providing your biometric information. And for an even extra amount of money, for some types of visa applications, you're also able to get a decision within 1 working day of providing your biometric information. And that's very critical. That's interesting. And that's because there's one system for migrants or for applicants applying from outside of the EU, and another system for migrants applying from within the EU, particularly in relation to some of the previous categories, the EUSS, for instance, and those applying for under the EUSS family permit. There seems to be a better system for one category of people than another category. And I think the recent crisis in Ukraine is further evidence of that. The approach taken in relation to addressing the refugee crisis for people coming from Ukraine is completely different from the approach taken in relation to addressing the crisis in other countries where people are also seeking refuge. And resulting from all of this are mental health issues as well, which I will touch on in a bit. But one other thing I want to mention is, particularly in relation to students, it's important to have international staff with experience to support international students who are experiencing difficulty with the visa application and renewal. And it's also important to have, I think, when you have a situation where you have persons who have lived experiences of these issues, the approach is different in relation to addressing the issues that affect international students. I hope that answers questions, that particular question rather.
Yeah, thank you, Yinka. Thank you for actually putting emphasis on all the important points that you've said. The EU settlement process, as you said, as we mentioned earlier, did indeed raise awareness nationwide on the immigration process. But the visa process for international students and staff was still not adequately well known and well understood nationwide. Do you think that some of the things that you've just said with regards to supporting international, can these support, do you think, can these be extended towards staff as well? Because potentially international staff face other set of issues as well.
I think it can, but I think one key problem with using the EU settlement approach to address the issues in relation to international students is because there is an expectation on international students to meet certain requirements. So the bar is already set so high for them, and there's that expectation for them to reach that bar, failure to which would result in them not being able to apply for the visa in the first place, or even come to the UK in the second place. And this doesn't just cover international students, it covers international staff as well. By international staff, I don't mean staff from different countries. I mean, I'm referring to people or staff members who require some level of permission or a visa to be able to work in the country. It doesn't just apply to it doesn't stop at just the staff. It also applies to their family members as well. Because where you have an individual who's got a partner and both of them have kids, whatever happens to the main applicants in this case would affect both the partner and the children. So if the main applicant did not meet the requirements of a certain type of visa, for instance, if the visa were refused and it had to leave the country, the main applicant would not be the only person leaving the country. Both the partner and the children would have to leave the country as well if they were all dependent on the main applicant. So it does have implications on staff. It does have implications on family members. It does have a wide range of implications on stakeholders as well.
Thank you, Yinka. You've actually mentioned the impact of visa implication just now and the renewal on family members, that is dependent. And you've also mentioned earlier about mental health. What are some of the observations you personally have made among international students or even staff applying or renewing visas within the UK?
So amongst international, I've had the opportunity to work with fantastic international students over the course of working within UK immigration. I don't do a lot of that work at the moment, but I do a lot of other immigration-related work. And one of the things I've noticed over the years is the lack of certainty. So the fact that the rules could change in very short notice is a major issue that has a huge impact on the visa application and renewal process, not just for students or international staff, but on their families as well. The long process is another issue as well. You're sat there, you're waiting for an outcome from the Home Office, not knowing when it's going to happen. I remember previously, if your visa application had not spent 6 months within the Home Office, you were not going to be given an update on the application. You had to wait 6 months. Previously as well, it was impossible for you to leave the country if you had a pending visa application. Previously as well, you had to submit your passport and application supporting documents to the Home Office and wait for an outcome before you did anything or before you even progressed with your life. That's changed now, because now you're able to just scan the document and upload it on a particular portal, which is run by one of the partners of the Home Office. But notwithstanding, there's still the fear of refusal of any particular visa application and the fear of removal if your visa application is refused and you don't have a right to stay in the country. And that has a huge impact on immediate family members, friends, and even families in home countries of applicants as well. Another key problem, which I today cannot understand why nothing's been done about it, is the uncertainty regarding uncertainty regarding the source of funds for visa applications. I will explain that in a bit more detail. So if you're a student applying to come to the UK or applying for an extension of the visa to remain in the UK to study, the amount of money you require for your visa application is dependent on where you're studying. For instance, if you're studying in London, in the City of London or any of the 32 London boroughs, you have to provide what's known as, provide what's known as maintenance. And that's taking us £1,334 a month, and you've got to show that for 9 months. The actual figure for that is £12,006. That's what you need to have in your bank account to show as evidence of maintenance. That's a lot of money, which demonstrates, or which basically shows that you need to be a millionaire. You need to have a lot of money available in order to come to the UK to study. And that's besides how much you need to demonstrate, or how much you need to pay for the tuition fees, which again runs into a lot of thousands. And that doesn't cover the visa application fee. There's also an immigration health surcharge, which is about £400 a year per applicant. Then there's the other side of it. For those studying outside of the City of London or outside of the 32 London boroughs or the rest of the UK, as the rules describe it, you need to have, if you're coming here to study, you need to have £9,207 in your bank account as evidence of maintenance. That also doesn't cover the tuition fees or the biometric enrollment and the immigration health surcharge. It doesn't also cover cost of travel or postage of the application for the visa application. And if you're going to use a solicitor or an immigration expert, you would still be required to pay professional fees. So when you think of all these things, and if you think of how you're going to get funds, even if you have, unless of course you have an official financial sponsor, so like a scholarship agency, for instance, then that's fine. But there are the issues result from where there's an issue with the funding. So the cases, I've dealt with cases where students just had issues with fund remittance from their home countries, or because there was just an issue with the family business and the funding had been cut. Recently, I met a student who was from a country affected by the current crisis, and they were concerned that they were not going to be able to get funds made available to them from their parents, and they would have to stop their education in the UK. So it does affect, irrespective of what perspective you look at it from, it does have an impact on students studying. And they still, there's the huge amount of funds required for studying in the UK is a lot. And I think when you also look at it from the perspective of the approach used by the Home Office for citizens of certain countries and citizens of other countries is different. So there's what's known as the differentiation or the differential arrangements by the Home Office, where if you come from certain countries like the USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, you're not required to provide evidence of maintenance, for instance. You're not required to provide the supporting documents for your application. You do require to have them available, and you are required to meet the requirements, but you're not required to provide evidence of meeting the requirements, which is a complete distinction, or complete when you compare it directly to citizens of, say, countries from Ghana, for instance, or other countries that do not fall within that particular list. It's unfair because you've got one system, one rule for one category of students, and you've got another rule for another category of students. Then you look at the issue of police registration. If you're from particular countries, you're required to register with the police. But if you're from not all countries are contained in that list. The point I'm trying to make is different rules apply to different students from different countries. And that in itself places a level of stigma on those students who are affected by these rules, or which rules are implemented against them. But I will stop there for now, and I'll just
Thank you, Yinka, actually, for the very comprehensive answer you've given, especially the figures. I mean, 12,006 is a lot of money. And actually, a student from my home country, if that student was to go now and apply for a program in the UK, just for the visa costs, based on the cost that you said, they would need close to 1 million in the local currency, and that would need their parents would need to be pretty much a millionaire, and that excludes the tuition costs. So yeah. I've just made a rough calculation on the top of my head, and for them to pay the tuition costs and the visa costs and everything, that would be close to 2 million just for 1 year. I've put in my head, and that what you've said also exclude costs of things such as English language certificate like IELTS and TOEFL. And you said something quite alarming as well with regards to the differences that international students and staff even encounter, particularly police registration, which can be quite a negative experience, actually, you know, telling an international student, oh, you need to go to the police station now and register. But I'll stop there. It's already I think a traumatizing experience for anyone who goes through that, especially over and over again. But at the moment, with regards to your work that you've been doing, all that work that you're doing with students, staff around immigration, what are you currently celebrating?
That's a very good question. What am I currently celebrating? I think for me, the mere fact that I have the opportunity to advise clients on immigration matters, or have the opportunity to mentor students on immigration training, is worth celebrating. But particularly, so I work, like I mentioned, I work in a UK higher education institution, and I work within the law clinic of the institution that I work at currently. And I have the opportunity to work in partnership with agencies who deal or who assist individuals who are seeking asylum in the UK or refugees. And and I think that's one thing I'm celebrating. We've been able to assist a number of clients through that partnership, and I think most of the clients we've assisted are happy with the service we provide. The other thing as well is the fact that recently I joined a team of other UK solicitors and barristers in relation to assisting applicants from Ukraine as a result of the recent crisis, who are seeking applications to come to enter the UK or remain in the UK. And again, I had the privilege of assisting a number of clients in that particular area, and I think that's one thing that is worth celebrating for me personally, from a recent perspective. And I hope to continue doing the work I'm doing in immigration and research as well. I've just been given, again, I've been incredibly privileged to have signed a contract recently with a UK publisher to write an immigration law textbook, which I'm currently doing, and I'm looking forward to completing that and hoping that would help advance knowledge in UK immigration law.
Thank you, Yinka. Actually, your response and your participation is much appreciated, particularly the experience that international students and staff face in the UK, in UKHE, which is, it's 2022 and there are still changes to be done, but we can only hope for the better. Thank you again for your participation.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Nadan. Thank you.
Until next time, it's been Teeroumanee Nadan with Celebrating Small Steps in a Chi.